Alrighty, so before I get started with this episode, I just want to make a disclaimer and say that there's construction being done above me on top of the roof. So if y'all hear some noise, that's why. So I'm going to name this episode The Outcast. I was going to name it The Black Sheep, but the reason why I decided not to is because the stigma behind the black sheep. Like, why does the black sheep have to be the outcast when there's multiple black sheeps? So it can be an indication or equivalent to racism. So I just wasn't finna rock with that. So, the outcast. I'm going to start from childhood. Now, I didn't always use the term outcast. I didn't start using that term until a lot of people start calling me, as I got older, the black sheep. Or the odd one out. So, and that was like, in my adulthood, is when people start calling me that. I'm like, wow, after all these years, that's when y'all started to call me that? Out of all these years of being an outcast was reflected. Like, y'all didn't see it. Like, y'all saw it then, but y'all just now saying something. Anywho, as I look back in my childhood, I realized there were certain events that make me say now, wow, I really am an outcast and has been since a child. I'm going to start with elementary school. Elementary school is when I can honestly say that's when being an outcast became activated for me, because my learning style was totally different from the other children. I didn't realize I was a kinesthetic learner until college. So you can just imagine how learning was as a child in elementary school, like in kindergarten. Very difficult. Teachers couldn't get through to me and how to school me. I was just completely a difficult child to school. So when it came to the curriculum, I would come up with creative ways to solve problems, to answer questions, to do projects. And the teachers would be like, that's awesome, but this is incorrect information. And I was like, wow, dang it. Or like when the teachers ask questions, I would be the first to say something that no other student would say. And they'd be like, wow, I never thought of that. Or the teacher would be like, that's wrong. I'm like, oh. But then like, that's a great perspective, a very unique creative perspective. And speaking of creativeness, I always had a creative mind as a kid. And now that I'm evolving mentally and discovering numerology, astrology, I realized that my life path number is 3. So that explains my creativity and my innovativeness. So I was just always out of the box. And clearly that sparked a lot of people. Yeah, it sparked attention. It sparked a lot of people to me. And I was either hated or loved for it. So even though I'm a kinesthetic learner, was not aware of it then, there might have been other students that was kinesthetic learners, and they probably was aware of it and was better off than I was. I was just very horrible when it came to learning in elementary school, and I definitely stood out because of that. Like, I would get teased, I would get called an idiot, stupid, not even just by the students, but the teachers. And the students it was so bad with the teachers that the students would shut up and be like, the heck, I thought I was mean. And that's a serious problem when the teacher is outbeating the student when it comes to bullying or teasing. And I'm like, wow, that's pitiful. Very pitiful. So the stuff that I endured in school, all because I didn't want to get beat at home. Like, my mom would whoop me even when I was in the right. I'm like, I'm defending myself at school. You want me to defend myself or let these kids talk to me crazy or do what they please? Obviously, Yes, she did. She cared more about her image. Her image was taunted if I defended myself. Her image was looked at as the best mother award if I held back my defense. I'm like, wow, that's weird and unacceptable and very toxic, because you shouldn't, parents, you shouldn't knock your child from defending themselves, especially if they're getting mistreated at school by their teachers as well. I didn't tell my mom I was getting mistreated by my teachers, because when I told her about the students, she didn't care. So I'm like, if you didn't care about how these students treat me, I know you're not going to care about how these teachers treat me. So right then and there, labeled as an outcast, and I didn't even know it. I was just experiencing it as a young kid. He blasted music. I hope I don't get copyrighted. But yeah, so just an outcast, a completely outcast. Always outed for something. How I dressed in school, I was outed for that. They're like, you must not be from St. Louis. I'm like, I'm from here. Sometimes, and when I was I would dress up here and there, but even as the dirtiest kid, like, people noticed. They'd be like, But there were some times where I made what I had work. I might have been the bum of the school, but I made it work with what I did have at the time. And like I said, if I was stood out, I was stood out to be hated or loved. And I was hated more than loved. I wouldn't even use the term hate, because hate is a strong word. I was disliked. I would use that terminology. But yeah, that is when I became an outcast. It's when I became open to the public, going to public school, just going out in the world, adventuring. Now, when it comes to friends, it was very hard to make friends. There was only one person on this planet I called a friend. One person. And she ended up cursing me out. So that didn't last long. Her approach was very bipolar. One minute she was cool with me, next minute she wasn't. And I'd be like, okay, I didn't know what the word toxic meant at the time, but I knew I wasn't dealing with her anymore. My breaking point is when she just cursed me out on the phone for no reason. She didn't bother to address her frustration or what made her even want to curse me out to begin with. So I'm just like, yeah. But anywho, even I mentioned her to say that we were different. I mean, you can tell by our results. If you was to know her background and my frame, and her versus her frame, we just different. And different to the point that you can just even look just by examining both of us. Like, yeah, this is not going to work for us friendship. Because we was that different. And speaking of friendships, let me look up a word that I mispronounced the first time. Constituent. Let me make sure. Is it constituent or constituent? Hold on.
Constituent.
Constituent. That's the word. So there's 3 types of friends according to TD Jakes. Shout out to Kathy O'Donnell. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. I'm not big with name pronunciations, but she has a YouTube channel called Soul and Vibration. And she mentioned this quote from TD Jakes. I don't listen to him, and I'm not religious. She said she's not religious either. I'm just translating what she stated. So for us to still take in what he said says a lot. You don't have to have the same frame as someone else to agree with their message. You don't have to be into twin flames with the messenger. As long as the message hits, accept it. So constituent is the first type of friend that I want to address, because I had a hard time pronouncing this word. So I want to get this out the way. Now, a synonym for constituent is a person who is No, I'm not going to use that word. I'm going to use a different word. Who has a similar element to you. For example, I won't even say you. I'm going to use second person. So, matter of fact, I use first person. Let's say if I was a weed smoker and I have a person I consider to be a friend that's a weed smoker, that's our common ground. That's probably how we was introduced to each other. We probably went to a hookah joint and just smoked weed together and be like, hey, you seem really cool. Yeah, you do too. And then boom, we became friends. So we became friends based off that common ground, weed. And I'm not a weed smoker, by the way. I'm just speaking hypothetically here. If I was a weed smoker, 10 out of 10, I would draw someone else who's a weed smoker as well. And I'm not a weed smoker, and I still draw people who smoke weed because it's a common thing. A lot of people do smoke, yeah. So yeah, I'm speaking hypothetically. So yeah, that's what a constituent is. That's the first type of friend. You know, y'all friends based off the common ground. Now the second one is the comrade. The comrade is very similar to the constituent. It's more like a partner, your partner in crime. So I don't see the difference between the first one and the second one, but I can use a different example. Let's say you and this person, y'all really not friends, y'all enemies. There you go. That's a comrade. So a comrade is you two don't like each other, but y'all have the same enemy. So y'all gonna work together in the sake of defeating your enemy. So that's the comrade type of friend. Like y'all just friends for this moment. Once y'all common enemy disappears, now y'all back to being enemies. Or you can really not like a certain individual, but you're just dealing with them for the sake that you want to keep your job. They happen to work at the same job as you. That's a comrade friend. You know, it's friends with friend enemy, like friend enemy type of relationship. Like a perfect example would be Brandy and Monica, the two R&B songstresses. They a perfect example to me as comrade friends. No offense. I just don't see them being the best of buddies. For as like just being, hey, catching up, how you doing mentally, this and that. I can see them being great business partners though. I'm talking like, y'all see they made history with the versus battle. Like they had the most views out of everyone who participated on that versus battle ever. So that's why I say they are a perfect example, because although they probably be the best of friends behind the scenes. So don't take my perception as the accurate perception, because only them two can define who they really are with one another. These are just assumptions to me that I'm making. I just want to put that out there. And I love both of their music, by the way. So I wouldn't do anything to disrespect them. But we live in a generation where anybody can get offended by anything these days. So I just pray if they do hear this, I hope they don't get offended, because that was not my purpose to mention them to. Was to offend them. It's just to make an example of what a comrade is. So they might not be the best of buddies, but they can make it work for the sake of business. That's how I look at them too. So that's another example of a comrade. Now the third one is the confident friend. So the confident friend is the friend that's going to tell you when you're wrong and don't care if you like it or not. They're not going to I'd rather have a confident friend than the other two. Because at least with the confident friend can be a mentor, and you could be a mentor to them as well. Like I said, they're going to tell you how it is, whether you like it or not, for the sake of wanting to see you grow. And not stun your growth by withholding what they have to say, because what they have to say could probably save your life, depending on the situation. So I'd rather have that confident friend. And I never came across a confident friend. And I'm just now realizing that in 2020, like the end of 2020, this is November 12th to be exact. And I'm like, wow, I'm just now realizing I never had a confident friend. I'm making noise. The people above me making noise. They're doing construction work. Wow. Okay. So back to that. And the reason why I mention these 3 type of friends is because learning this recently, I learned it yesterday, actually, November 11th. So like I don't know if I told you guys, but everything that I learned, I'm going to pass it down to you all. I need to stop saying you guys because there's ladies too. Like, come on now. So you all, I want to mention what I learned. And even in the midst of learning the 3 type of friends, I'm like, wow. Now I really see that I'm an outcast because the people that I do have in my life that I would even consider associated or just a part of my life, and just even family, I wouldn't even just label these 3 terms as just for friends, but like mom and constituent. My mom can be a constituent mother. She might not be a mentor to me, and ain't no might not about it. She's not. She fits in the category of the constituent. Yeah. She fits in that category. Because it's like we can only get along when I'm based in the conversation off what she wants to hear. We don't get I won't say me and my mom relationship is comrade because we don't have a common enemy. If we had a common enemy and we come together for the sake of that to demolish just common enemy, then yeah, that would be comrade. But no. So even with parents and cousins and just people I grew up with, they are not confident within my life. They are either comrade. Well, I'm not going to say I don't have anyone that I would consider a comrade attachment in my life. I wouldn't even say attachment, but just comrade associated. I have no comrade association. I have no confident association either. It's just the constituent association that I have with everyone that I'm around. And I like I said, I didn't realize that until yesterday. And I'm like, wow, so I'm really am an outcast. I am only excuse my uncle, you know what? Moving on. Yeah. So I realized the people that is in my life, they only in my life because of what I bring to the table, to their table. Because they don't care about my table like that. If they do, they never said it. And of course, I'm speaking metaphors when I say that. So I hope y'all get that. So yeah, I didn't realize that these people wasn't confidential to me until yesterday. So I'm like, and when I examine the people that I'm around, I'm like, oh, okay. So you only around because of what I can do for you. Okay, you only around because it makes you look good for you to be around me. Got it? Okay, I'm around you because they know that I'm an outcast. I had people tell me, these same people, yeah, you weird, you different, or you crazy, or just every other word but unique. I had people tell me this. And I also have, here's like a darker side to being an outcast. I have people who felt it was necessary to treat me any kind of way. They were like, well, your parent treat you any kind of way. Why can't I treat you any kind of way? And it's like, really? You really said that? And it's like, wow. So that's the dark side of being an outcast, is I get treated like trash in most cases. And it's like, really? But those people going to regret it, because I've learned over the years to embrace me being an outcast. I used to always have a problem with getting treated different from other people. And I'm going to... So my sister, I'm going to use my sister as an example. I never didn't like being an outcast. I just didn't like being mistreated in the process of being an outcast. So, like I said, I'm going to use my sister as an example. She would... Okay, my sister would be a perfect example for this. So, let me make it clear. Aaliyah was and still is to this day my favorite artist of all times. The second artist that I loved so much was Beyonce. My sister eventually she became a fan of Beyonce's, and I was like, you know what? No, I want my own identity. I don't want to have nothing in common with her. And at the time, the term outcast did not come to my mind. I just knew I wanted to stand out. I had a need to stand out. And I know that has to play a part within my natal chart. So astrology, I'm telling y'all, astrology is confirmation in regards of our persona. I'm telling you, it's confirmation behind us as a whole. So, yeah, anyway, before I lose focus of the point that I'm making. Yeah, my sister just totally... I felt like she took a part of my interest when she became a Beyonce fan. I'm like, nah, I'm not interested in Beyonce anymore. And then eventually, that's a different topic. But yeah, she just took my interest. I'm like, dag. And the reason why I had a problem with my sister doing that is because when I was in kindergarten, this was like the only time me and my sister went to the same school. We was on the school bus, and she made this joke, and I replied questioningly. I said the exact same thing she said, and before I could finish the sentence and say, that's funny to y'all, like before I can even finish the sentence, the students was like, why you jocking your sister? Have your own identity. Like, shut up, you're not as funny as your sister. I'm like, wow. Like, I didn't repeat after my sister to try to be like my sister. I repeated after her to make a point. Like, the joke wasn't really funny, you know? Because me and my sister, we would always go back and forth as kids. But yeah, so after hearing people say have your own identity, that really offended me. I didn't take it out on my sister. Well, yes, I did take it out on my sister. Like, every time that I would have an interest in my sister all of a sudden have a common interest as me, I would have a problem with that. I'm like, girl, really? Like, you didn't start liking that till I liked it. She like, well, I like it too. So now as a 24-year-old, of course I don't want to be the same. It's not that I don't want to be the same. I just want to be more improved within my behavior. So I was like, I'm not going to get mad at my sister anymore, because I'm a full grown feminine soul now. So I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to be petty. I wouldn't even say mad. It was just more like a petty attitude towards one another. Like, we would just go back and forth, nag each other like siblings do. Like, I wouldn't say all siblings, but a lot of siblings. It's very common. So me and my sister, we would go at it. She would defend herself and be like, I'm not jocking you. Like, girl, bye. But it was just the identity part with me. I didn't want to share anything with her or anyone of that matter. I'm like, I want to stand out on my own. And that, like I said, that was before the whole outcast term came about. Then as I got older and so used to people setting the term, because a lot of people didn't call me an outcast at first. They were just calling me the black sheep. And they're like, oh, you get treated bad. You always get the worst end of the stick. Po baby, or po black sheep, or as my godfather would say, bah. I said, this man is disrespectful. Like, he would make sheep sounds. And it was like, really? That's how you feel? Like, you trying to hurt my little feelings? Like, okay, I got you. Like, he would just start making sheep sounds. He like, that's crazy, Cree. You know, that's crazy. I'm like, wow, you sure right. So yeah, like, people will always remind me that I'm the black sheep. I'm the one that's always out. And like I said, like, of course there's a darker side. The lighter side of being an outcast is to embrace it. Embrace your difference. put it in a forefront. Make sure it's in the spotlight that you're different. But like with the dark side, it made me feel like I was invisible. My feelings is invisible to most people. That's the biggest issue I have. When I want to express my feelings, I get overlooked because of assumption. Like, oh, she look like the strong one, she can handle anything. And it's like, even strong people need to be treated right. And I personally seen bad people get treated like royalty, but good people getting treated like trash. And I'm one of those good people. Now, I know a lot of people say I'm a good person, and they really not a good person. I'm the type of person, I would say I'm a good person in the extension of improving myself, because I know I'm not the best person. And that's the difference between being a good person and being the best. I'm not the best I can be, but I know that if I make the effort, I could become the best at mastering what needs to be mastered in order to becoming that better version of myself. So when I say I'm a good person, I'm not saying it in a boisterous way, because there are people out here like that. I had someone tell me that they're a good person after they disrespected me. I was like, wow, how that works? Well, clearly I'm seeing how it works because it's being displayed in my face. Like, wow, hypocrite. Can somebody spell hypocrite in all caps? But yeah, like, so when I say I'm a good person in the extension of improving myself daily. Because I know I'm not the type of person that embrace my flaws. If I'm going to mention anything about my flaws, it's going to be in the intent of using my flaws as lessons and not as an excuse of why someone should accept me. Because a lot of people would be like, accept me for who I am. I wouldn't say that, because there's certain things that's not tolerant to some people. And if there's certain things about me that you feel like is unbearable, don't bear it. And vice versa. If I feel like there's certain things that I don't want to endure with some people, I'm going to detach myself. I'm not going to put myself in positions where I'm most uncomfortable. But sometimes in order to grow, you need to be put in some uncomfortable situations. But that's in different cases. It depends on the scenario. So moving on with that. But yeah, like when I mention my flaws, it's with the intent of I use my flaws as lessons, not like an excuse. Because a lot of people, you like, accept me for who I am. If you're going to accept anything about me, accept the fact that I'm honest. Like August Alsina said, bury him an honest man, bury me an honest feminine soul. Like, in all seriousness, like, whether you can bear with me or not, I at least want people to say, well, at least you're honest, you're real. You're not put on this facade. I'd rather hear that than for people to say, you always saying people should accept you for who you are. It ain't about accepting me for who I am. Just acknowledge that I'm not faking with who I am. Just acknowledgement is all. Accept the acknowledgement. That's all the requirements I'm coming with. It's just accept my honesty. Accept the realness. Accept what you get. That don't mean bear with it, deal with it. You don't have to deal with it. Just accept the fact that it's the realest version of me. Because I could have put on a facade. So yeah, they still doing construction work, although it's late. Like, go to sleep, get some food. Like, they've been up there all day since the morning, y'all. Woke me up out of my sleep. I know they hungry. I know they stomach growling, singing melodies. See, now they probably, you know what? They probably banging out of aggression. Like, they probably angry. I can tell by how the sound of whatever toy they're using. Okay, let me stop, because now I'm getting sidetracked. But yes, like, all this developed the realization of me, like, yeah, I really am an outcast. Because, okay, now they're getting a little too loud. See, if I would have left today, I probably would have brought them back some food. Because I know they hungry up there. Like, they've been on that rooftop just working. I'm talking Rihanna. Work. Okay, they've been up there putting in work. But yeah, so the people that comes in and out of my life is constantly reminding me that I'm an outcast. And like I said, when it comes to me, when it comes to flaws and all, even within that, it's still a reminder that I'm an outcast. Like, no matter how I look at it, no matter how I position myself, I am an outcast. And for anyone that's out there that's an outcast like I am, I would say probably embrace your difference. Don't try to fit in with anyone, because you're going to look like you're not going to only be the odd one out, but you're going to draw in the wrong intention, and you're going to always have these certain reminders that it wasn't meant for you to fit in. I used to always say, why I can't get along with certain people? Why is it so difficult for me to make friends and stuff like that? Until I realized recently that everything happened for a reason. If I'm not friends with this person, if I don't have a relationship with this relative, it's because it was in the design order. It was in the plan before the plan was even planned. So I'm learning to just go with the flow. Stop trying to rearrange the algorithm of the flow and just let things flow the way it's flowing, and just learn from there. Another thing from Kathy O'Donnell that has the YouTube channel Soul and Vibration. Subscribe to her YouTube channel, by the way, y'all, and click the bell button so y'all can get notifications, because she's really enlightful. Like I'm telling y'all, she is full of enlightenment. So enlightful might not even be a word, but y'all already know the drill. If I said it, it's a word. But yeah, she mentioned that. Oh my goodness, what did she mention? See, that's what I get. Always trying to add sidebars and then forget what I'm gonna say. She mentioned. Matter of fact, I can at least look up the video. If I don't find anything else, I can at least look up the video. Because she made a YouTube video. That's the least I can do since I forgot. Why are you the black sheep of your family? Yes, she mentioned, she made a video about it. So go check her out. Of course, not talking about the exact same thing. I'm quite sure there's similarities, but what she had to say is very interesting. So go check her out. And her YouTube channel is Soul and Vibration, for those who didn't catch it the first few times. So yeah, she talked about narcissism and being the outcast. You will always find yourself with people. If you're not the conflict, you're drawing conflict. Like, and it's all for the greater good. It's all for the less. Okay, now I'm remembering what she said. See, I'm glad I did that. Okay, she mentioned that it might not be her exact words, but I'm gonna draw it into the exact same intent that she brought it to. The purpose, rather. It's equivalent, so it don't matter. But yeah, just make sure you can make the best out of any situation, as long as you know that. I'm going to use her example, like COVID-19. A lot of people, if you're an innovator, you would do fine, or you have done fine, or doing fine during this pandemic. Like, a lot of people, this pandemic slowed a lot of people down, but a lot of people, what is that term? What's that saying that people say? Don't let a good crisis go to waste. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. That was a similar point that she was making. That's because it's a pandemic. Don't let this pandemic slow you down. I know someone that I went to school with, elementary school with. He just brought a club. He got celebrities coming here during a pandemic. And I'm like, where's y'all mask at? Ain't none of them got sick. I'm shocked. But like, he really seized in the opportunity during the pandemic to invest in a club. And I'm like, wow. Now, if that's not an innovator, I don't know what is. And I'm quite sure there's many people that have clubs, but with each club owner comes a different vibe. I just want y'all to know that. So don't ever, and for those out there who are innovators, if someone else has this same gift as you, don't feel bad and be like, oh man, I can't do this because this person done it. Yeah, but they might not have the same mindset as you. Y'all both might have a barbershop, but your barbershop might be a different color than theirs. Your barbershop might have different designs than this person barbershop does. So don't let another person common interest or trait about them that you may have as well stop you from being an innovator, for being creative. Because although we might have similarities with a lot of people, there will always be something that stands out within every last one of us, and that's individuality. Embrace your individuality at all costs. And to me, my individuality is equivalent to being the outcast. Like, I don't mind being an outcast. I have, when people tell me I'm weird, I look at that as a compliment. I'm like, thank you. I didn't always look at it as a compliment because I wasn't always informed of the lighter side of that statement. You're a word. So now when people tell me you word, I'm like, thank you. I'm gonna be like, thank you so much. I'm flattered. I'd rather for people to tell me I'm word than for people to tell me you remind me of this person, you remind me of that person. I don't want to be remembered as someone's shadow. I want to be remembered in my own light, in my own special way. So, the only way to do that is to fully embrace myself. And when I tell y'all, it was a challenge at first because I was so used to people telling me, you can't do this, you can't do that, that don't look right, I wouldn't do that if I was you. And it's like, if I continue to let people tell me what to and cannot do, I might as well step aside and let them come in my soul and let them orchestrate my spirit. And it was like, nah, I have enough willpower to say, hey, I heard your opinion, but it ain't dwelling up in this spirit, not in my spirit. So I'm still learning to this day, because it's easier said than done. You can easily tell someone, hey, embrace yourself, embrace being an outcast. It's a process to that. And if I ever say something that feels like I'm not being fully detailed enough, please say something to me, y'all. My Instagram is Creeyeh, Creeyeh. I be on Instagram the most. Facebook, I don't be on Facebook like that, but I do check my notifications. Like, I always have my notifications on. So, and my Facebook is Cree-Cree Vá'Tee official. Of course, I have a personal page, but that's just my business page, my professional page that I gave y'all. So yeah, just comment on that. If I'm never being detailed enough, just comment, let me know. But because I just don't want to tell y'all, hey, embrace being an outcast, and I'm not being detailed with you guys. It's definitely a process. There's steps, there's levels to embracing yourself. You just don't embrace yourself overnight, because it didn't take that for me. I'm 24 years old. I'm just now learning in 2020, and I was born in 1996. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to take 24 years. If you're younger than me, you're going to be, by me telling you this now, that it's a process, and I actually give you a few steps that I know of, you're going to be farther off than I am, just for knowing the little bit that I can give. So, like, I would say the first step to embracing yourself is to acknowledge the fact that you never lost yourself. You just suppressed yourself through over the years of being told you can't do this, you can't do that, you doing this wrong, etc., etc. A lot of people spend their time trying to find themselves when all they need to do is embrace themselves, because you never lost you. And if you want to prove that, and if you want me to prove that, always look back at your childhood, because I'm quite sure a lot of people as children had more freedom as a child than they did as an adult. And I'm going to use Monica again. Monica is another one of my favorite artists besides Aaliyah. So I'm going to use Monica again. Monica, she recently did an interview earlier this month, or probably the end of October, on XM Radio, if I'm not mistaken. And she said she was more freer. She didn't probably say those exact words, but she didn't really care about opinions and stuff like that. She wasn't an overthinker until she became an adult. And I noticed that. Through her approach over the years. I'm like, well, of course, I was born in 1996, so of course I had to go back and look at interviews and stuff like that. And I'm like, I see a difference in Monica in the way that she approaches situations and the way she moves in regards of her creativity goes and stuff like that. It's just something was different. I couldn't put my finger on it until she said, I'm like, yes, that's what it is. Like, she became a thinker. When it comes to being an artist, I wouldn't recommend them to. I might not be an artist to a certain extent, but one thing I can say, just based off being an observer, I might not be a participant in being an artist to a certain extent, because to another certain extent, I am an artist, but not a musical artist like she is. You can, I would encourage any form of an artist to be a thinker. When it comes to you have to be free-willed if you're going to be an artist. I wouldn't recommend an artist to be a thinker, because to be a thinker is to be a guesser. And when you're guessing, and when you over guessing, it can become overwhelming. And then you just have a lot of overs suppressing you. So hopefully she comes to a point where she can be free-willed and just get rid of overthinking. But of course, with getting rid of something, it comes with substitution. So she have to substitute overthinking with being free-willed. Tap into that energy, learn a little more about being free-willed. And this is self-noted as well. This is just not to Monica. This is to me as well. Because at certain points, I was an overthinker. I was thinking. And I'm like, I tell people all the time that one of my favorite quote that I created, that I came up with, because I never heard nobody say this but me, was, thinking minds lead to sinking ships. Guessing minds lead to sinking ships. When you're guessing, you're suppressing your brain cells, and now you're leaking out energy that could have been used for something greater. Now you're wasting your energy and draining your energy with the substitution of worrying about things that you shouldn't have to worry about. Worry and conscious is two different scenarios. It's okay to be conscious, but when you're worrying yourself, you're bringing on suppression. You're suppressing, you're holding back instead of going with the flow, like I mentioned earlier. So I say that to say this. I have to tell myself to don't think at all. Become free-willed. And that's a process. I'm still learning to be more free-willed. I'm still learning that even if things don't go my way, even if something bad does happen, look on the flip side. What good can come out of this? I need to ask myself that. What good can, even if I don't see the good, create the good, become the good. Because there were certain cases that happened. I'm like, I don't see how good can come out of this situation. And within that very moment, the Almighty Aliyah is like, be the good. What do you want at this very given moment during this bad time? Well, this and that. Be that then. So not only do I encourage people to question everything, but I would even go farther as to say question yourself first before you question anything else. Question yourself. You're going to get the answers. All it takes is meditation, aka reflection. Those two words are very equivalent to each other, so I will always use those words to marinate in the sake of being intuitive, being tapped into yourself. Because to be tapped into yourself is to be tapped into the one that's inhaling and exhaling through us, which is the Almighty Aliyah. Now, and depending on who y'all call the Almighty, to each his own. Because I never met anyone that calls the Almighty Aliyah. I'm the first. So, moving on from that. But yeah, I say all that to say, don't let situations keep you boxed in. Even with the box, you can still be creative. But you will also be limited too. So get out the box. Don't dwell in no box. I tell you that. Be free will, not a thinker. And another word that just came to my mind: be exclusive. Just don't look at things. Don't look at things as black and white. Good. This is good. This is bad. This is good. This is bad. This is good. This is bad. There are good and bad things on this earth. But what I do is I combine the two into an exclusiveness. I label it as exclusive. I look at both ends of the stick, because at the end of the day, a stick is a stick no matter which end you see first. A stick is a stick. So I say that to say this: don't limit your brain cells. If you limit anything else, don't eliminate the process of learning. Don't eliminate your brain cells. Just don't. Like, look at the good. If you're gonna look at the good, look at the bad that can possibly come with it too. And from the calculation of both, what exclusive information you have to spread now. Because a lot of people on this earth is walking one-sided. They're like, I ain't with this because this is bad. I know it sounds like I'm rambling, but I'm really not. I'm just, at this point, I'm displaying my outcastness because a lot of people don't talk like this. What I'm doing now is just giving y'all example of what being an outcast sounds like. This is what being an outcast, I know exactly what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. So at this point, I'm giving y'all an example. And I need to get some water too, because I've been doing these episodes without having water on my side. Because I don't want to cough and y'all be like, coronavirus. I'm like, come on now, little Cardi B's. Come on. Y'all trying it. But no, in all seriousness, fully embrace yourself. If you didn't get, and like I said, there's process. And let me give y'all the steps before I forget. And before they start making a whole bunch of more noise than they already is. Because I know y'all heard it. So, the first step is accepting yourself. Because, to be honest, we always knew ourselves. Those who wasn't aware of knowing yourself is because you was oppressing what probably the higher authority was not condoning of you. So the first step to embracing being an outcast is accepting. The second is Oh my goodness, what can be the second? Let me base off my experience some more. What else am I doing? Because I had to accept myself, forgive myself. So I would say forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. If there's anything you blaming yourself for, please forgive yourself, because you can't expect no one. You can't expect validation. You can't expect if you've done harm to anybody. You can't expect for other people to forgive you without you forgiving you. You have to forgive you for whatever it may be. Because I had to forgive myself. I had to tell myself I can no longer punish myself for things I simply did not know at the time. Because if I knew it at the time, I would have not acted on certain things. I would have not communicated on behalf of false information. I had to forgive myself deeply. Honestly. Like, that was a big one for me. Accepting, forgiving. Let me give y'all a third one. Let's see. What else I had to do? Allow. I guess allow can be the third one. Allow yourself to heal. Well, if you automatically forgive yourself, you're gonna automatically be open. I'm gonna use that terminology then. Be open. Be open to new things. Be open to healing your childhood wounds, addressing things that you wouldn't normally address. Just face your reality. Face your reality. Because I'm quite sure you know that reality reality that you was born into, based off all the programming that's been in every last one of us on this planet. We all been a victim to programming at some point. Some aware, some ain't trying to be aware, and some is just completely oblivious. But yeah, those are the 3 steps to the process of embracing your outcastness. Accept yourself, forgive yourself, and the third one, because I came up with a few terms for the third one, but I would simply say just be open with yourself. Be real with yourself. Face your reality. Learn yourself more if you have to. So on that note, I hope someone got help from this episode. It was on my mind to do it, so I done it. And I hope y'all didn't get distracted by the noise in the background. Hopefully it's not that loud. I'm definitely going to replay this episode and determine if I should keep it or not. Hopefully I can keep it. And for those who've been listening the whole 53 minutes and 7 seconds, I salute you. Thank you. And I'll forever love you. So, until the next episode, embrace being an outcast. I'm out.